Hi, this is Dr. Bosch, and I'd like to welcome you to Bio 202, Human Anatomy and Physiology 2. And I thought I'd take just a few minutes to show you some of the features of the class on your Canvas site. Some of you may have had classes using Canvas already, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So what I am showing you here is the home page to Canvas, and it's got a welcome and the books you need to have at the start of class. As I wrote in my email and put on the announcement, you really have to have those before class starts because the class goes very quickly. We're doing a 16-week class in 6 weeks, which can be done. I had a class like this last summer. It went well, but you just have to be ready to work every day a lot. So it's not the kind of class you can do a couple hours in the evening. I don't think so anyway. So anyway, this is your home page. And then I'll just go down and show you what's available. Well, on the right side, this is with Student View or some things that are coming up. So, June 3rd is when some things are due, and then June 4th. And you have something due almost every day because, as I said, we're in the 6-week class. So I'll click on quizzes, and the quizzes are open book and you can take them twice. So they're really not quizzes per se. They're more like ways of just figuring out if you know the material. But that should help you to know some of the questions that I might ask about the material. So there are only maybe 10 to 14 questions or so, sometimes a little less than that. So there'll be a quiz on the endocrine system, and then on the chapter 17 on blood, and then on the heart, and then on the vessels. And these quizzes you can do open book, and you can take it twice if you miss something. You can try for a better grade. Um, but this practice exam, it's only 8 points, so it won't matter much. But it's set up in the way your exam will be set up. And the way that's set up is that you do have to have Respondus locked down, which will lock everything on your computer. Your face has to be in the camera at all times, and it is timed. The other thing about the exam is you can't go back on a question, just pick the best one, what you think is the right answer, and then move on. And that's standard practice for online examinations. So this is like a practice just to make sure your computer works. You do have to have a regular computer. You can't have a Chromebook that doesn't work. It does work on iPads, um, but again, this will be your chance to make sure the exam's working. That's on June 8th. And then the real exam's on June 9th. So if everything worked okay for here, you get an easy 8 points. There's 4 simple questions. And then here on the 9th, you take the actual exam, and that is timed. So don't wait for last minute. When it says it's due at 11:59, that means it turns off at 11:59. So even though you have, I think, 90 minutes for the exam, um, don't start it at 11:15, or you only have, 45 minutes for the exam. So start it early. Um, Also, I'd say if you want any help, don't wait till 11 o'clock at night. I'll be asleep by then. In fact, during the day is the best time to take the exam if you think you're going to need any help, from me anyway. So we finish the exam, we go on to the next set of quizzes and the next exam, and then halfway through this uh, semester, we'll have a practical exam. These questions will come all from the lab, so they're all pictures and things that you saw in the labs. And so you'll have that the same day as your second exam. And so you really study the lab and the lecture material are very much intertwined. So students actually usually do better on these exams, like exam 2, because if you study for both the practical and the lecture exam, you're studying it for the same material, and that actually helps your grade, even though you're taking 2 tests in one day. Most students do quite well on that. And then we move on, the same thing. We have the third exam, more quizzes, and then the fourth exam along with the last practical. That's right before the end of the semester. And then the final exam, 300 questions are all multiple choice. And this really is a cumulative exam. So it's got questions all the way from the very first chapter, chapter 16. Try not to cram for the exam. In other words, if you only study the night before an exam, that material will be gone in about 2 days. But if you study all along, if you really get to know, say, the urinary system really well, then you'll know the urinary system when I ask you questions about it on the final. But if you only cram, that's where I lose students. Most students, if you're getting an 89 on all the exams, you get an 89 on the final. But if you're getting an 89 on all the exams and cram, then you may only get like a 60 on the final, and that'll hurt. So really get to learn this material well. So that's quizzes. Then announcements. Um, Lots of things. That was my welcome email a little while ago. You'll need that lab manual your first day. Talks about using the modules. I would go through these. Getting your computer ready to take exams. That's what Respondus. Getting on modified mastering, which you need in order to do the Physio-EX labs and dissection labs. Your very first lab that you'll do for the endocrine system does have a Physio-EX lab and does have a dissection lab. So you really need that modified mastering. You need an access code to that. And that's explained on the homepage there and in the email I gave you. So this just gives you more information. This talks about putting your assignments in drop boxes, creating one file for many pictures. You only want to have one single document when you turn things in. So if you're turning in, say, a lab, even though there's lots of parts to that lab, you want to take pictures of every page of the lab, including the questions in the lab manual, make it as one PDF and download that. And that just makes it easy for you in that all the material is in one document. And it makes it easy for me because it does take a while for your material to download. And if I have to download 3 or 4 things, I just won't do it. It takes forever. So you want to make it all into one document. So your lab is one document. You turn that in. Also, that way you can check it. You can look at your PDF and make sure you're not missing any pages. Make sure they're in good focus. Make sure they're upright. Make sure they're in order. If they're not any of those things, then just make a new PDF so that it's in order. And I'll do it. If you do post something that I can't read, I want to be able to give you the points. So I'll just tell you I can't read it. Please do it again. So do look at it before you turn it in. There's also a scannable app you can use to combine all your JPEGs into a PDF. So this is all stuff. There's a tutor available. Her name is Selena Smith. Very helpful. She's had 202. She's been tutoring this for a couple years now. And the students that work with Selena always do better than students that don't work with her. She's just very helpful. I think all the tutoring is online right now, but they may have some in-person tutoring. I'll let you know about that. More about navigating in Canvas I'm talking about today. More about your Pearson course ID. There's actually a course ID for the lab book and one for the textbook. I wish it could be the same, but that's just how it worked out. So you can look at that to see how to get onto our class to get the modified mastering. Both PowerPoint and Word are available for free for South Mountain students. So you can't use like Google Docs. It just doesn't work. It asks for permissions and stuff. I can't be doing that with every student for every assignment. So you do have to turn things in either as PDFs or in Word documents. And then your presentation has to be PowerPoint. It can't be Prezi or something. In other words, it's got to be something that's a document that can actually be uploaded to the box. And here's information on the research presentations. There'll be more on that later, about your lab guides and questions. And here's something on the essays on exams. So sometime when you have some time, if you just go through here, this tells you a lot about what you're doing in the class. And if you're having any questions, just check to see if it's here first. I mean, email me, of course, but much of the information is somewhere on the announcements. All right, and then the class is set up in modules, and this is your introductory things like the schedule, materials, things like that. This is about submitting assignments. And then I put everything for week 1 under this module. So you'll need the outlines. That's kind of the lecture outlines for the first exam. So there's an outline for chapter 16, 17, 18, and 19. That's your main way to record information. And you get the information by listening to my PowerPoints as though you were in class. Some of them are long, so I've broken them up into smaller parts. So, for example, the endocrine system, chapter 16, which is a pretty long chapter, has 3 lectures. And so you listen to that, you fill these out, and that's much of the information. Probably 90% of what you have to know for this class is in these PowerPoints and written down in these outlines. So as you're doing this, think about what you're learning. In other words, don't just write down quick stuff and be, okay, I'm done with that. That's really the meat of the course, are these outlines along with the narrations. Okay, and then we go on to blood and everything all the way through. So we do a lot in that first week. Some of these are just informational um, kinds of things, and then some are the actual assignment. So you can look through that. And then it goes on to week 2. So realize I've taken 16 weeks and put them into 6 weeks. So it seems like a lot, and it is a lot. You'll have to work every day to be successful. But at the end of 6 weeks, you're done with the class. So if this is helpful to move you forward academically, it's a really good class. And as I said, most of my students get A's and B's. The only way not to do that is to get behind. If you're working on week 1 and week 2, it's all over. So really just stay up on things. Then assignments. It starts out show by date. I find this to be a little confusing. It is nice because it's one after another date-wise. I kind of like show by type, which I'm clicking in the top right corner here. And here's your introduction. The very first thing you want to do is introduce yourself and then reply to at least 2 other students, just to get to know who's in the class, what they're doing. And you can look those over to find out who's in the class, and maybe a little bit later for this one here, you can find out what they might want to do their presentation on. And you can have up to 3 people on the same presentation, maybe 4 if you have a very good reason for having that many. You can do it by yourself or with a partner. But by looking at this, you'll know what people are doing. By looking at this, you'll know a little bit, where the students are coming from in the class. Then here are your exams, all in order, the practice, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and the final. Here's your practicals. Here are your quizzes. So when you click this with show by type, it seems more organized to me. These are all your quizzes. Here's all your labs. And these labs have the information for what you need to do in the lab, and you're actually filling those out. At the end of every lab, there are questions from the lab manual, which you also have to do. And so you'll take a picture of this, I call them lab guides, all the pages of that, then all the pages in the lab manual that go along. So lab 27 has questions in the lab manual, dissection has questions in the lab manual, and then the Physio-EX has questions in the lab manual. So you'll want to do that whole thing and then the questions in the lab manual, and then turn it in. The first one's due on June 3rd. There are 10 of these. So over 6 weeks, we do 10. Some are really long, some are really short. And it's reflected a little bit in the points. So there's a 50 pointer at the end there that's really long. Most of them are 40. Here's one that's really short, that's only 20. But this is the lab portion of the class. You cannot pass the class without doing the labs, because it is a lab lecture class. So be sure that you don't get behind on those labs. And here's the outlines if you want to see them separate. So in other words, down here on the assignments, if you actually click on there, you'll see that there's a box that says start assignment, and then here's submit assignment. What you do is you upload your completed outline when it's due, and you find it, and then you submit it, and then I get a notice that it's there. So that's kind of how that works. So all the assignments you turn in will be in the assignment. So we're in the assignment area here. So you click on this and then just put it into the correct box. And these are all the assignments. Here's all the labs. Here's all the quizzes, the outlines. There's 2 current event article reviews to do there as well. So I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to having you in class. Take care and contact me if you have